Welcome back, everyone. So today we're going to take a look at Chad and Lori again because, well, they've got a couple court dates coming up. But more importantly, not only do they have a couple court dates coming up, but they have some motions that are going to be playing in. And we're also going to take a look at, is Chad looking to hire a second attorney that specializes in capital murder cases? And it does look like it from this perspective right now, because there are two attorneys who are very prominent in the state of Idaho who have the ability to defend against capital murder cases, who have been contacted when reached out by mainstream media and asked if they were approached to take on a role as a public defender of Chad Daybell, or a private hired attorney in Chad's case. On from there, Chad Daybell has a court date coming up October 5th. At the October 5th date, they will be hearing two things from Chad Daybell. At that date, they will be taking a look at a change of venue request put in by Mr. Pryor, and the change of venue, he wants to move the case to Boise, Idaho. Now that's important, that he wants to move the case to Boise, Idaho versus Idaho Falls or a lot of other areas in the state of Idaho. He wants to move it to Boise. And that kind of it plays into the, is he actually hiring a private attorney to defend against capital murder? Because one of those prominent attorneys is out of Boise, Idaho, with experience as a defending cases of capital murder. So if on October 5th, they're applying to have the court move the court to case to Boise, Idaho. They feel that they can get a more fair trial there. The court has set the 5th and the 6th as the two dates that they will hear that actual motion at 9 a.m. both days, respectively. That to hear, well, why do you want to move the case to Boise, Idaho? Is there actually something there? And now, Chad and Mr. Pryor can say, well, we have another attorney that we would like to bring on, but he can't come all the way here to help defend, Chad in case the state files for capital murder charges, or goes for the death penalty in this case. And in that case, then they can say, well, okay, now you actually have something above and beyond the point of not just, wanting to move the case to someplace else. But they will hear that. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, they're also going to hear the motion that Chad Daybell is going to sign what they call a waiver of continuance. That's what it's called in certain states, but it's a waiver to a speedy trial. From the date that you were arraigned in any parts of the United States, from the date that you're arraigned, from that moment until the actual trial starts, by law, they must actually get you, the trial must start. They can't drag the trial. The state can't drag it out forever. Usually, that is a 6-month period from the time of arraignment to the time that your trial must start. Now, when we talk about trial starting, I'm talking about pre-trial motions. The trial doesn't have to start dead fast on a Thursday afternoon, because that's exactly 6 months. The trial must actually be starting by that time. Okay? But he's going to file a waiver of continuance, or a waiver to a speedy trial. Now, what's important about that is that's really going to slow the case down. And it's going to really be awful for you and me and everybody else out here who has been following this case. Because by filing that could put the case 10 months, 12 months, all the way up to 2 years out from today, from the date of pretrial, and arraignment. 2 years. It could get extended that far out. Now, we will not know for sure what the court is going to do until actually the date of October 5th. They are in 6th, that they have the 2 days that they have set aside for this. They could decide, okay, waiver of speedy trial, what works for you, Mr. Pryor, what works for the defense, what works for the state. And then at that point, they could say, well, okay, we're going to move the trial out, 11 months from now or 8 months from now. Will you be ready by then? If Mr. Pryor thinks he'll be ready by then, and if the state thinks they'll be ready by then they do it. Why does it take so long? Why is there a long extension to it? Because it takes time, ladies and gentlemen, to be able to get the cases lined up, to get the witnesses there, to get anything that's forensic that needs to be tested has to be done. The state does their testing. The defense is going to want their testing. The state's going to want to look and talk to witnesses. The defense is going to want the same thing. And these things take time. They're not working on our schedule. They're working on their schedule. So it takes time in a nutshell. But we'll find out for sure. And we also might find out then, also, don't forget, that if Chad is going to actually hire an additional attorney. We'll find out, in the actual court release that day, if Mr. Pryor and Chad have hired a private, public defender. Now, I use that word back and forth, public defender and private, because he would be privately paid by Chad Daybell because his home and his property and everything else has been put into a trust to guarantee the actual payment to Mr. Pryor and to any other attorney who comes on as a legal defense. Because, after all of his cash is gone from the bank, the house and everything else is the asset that will be held in case, it's be sold later on to pay Mr. Pryor or any other attorney. But again, one of those attorneys that he's looking at, that the mainstream media is reporting that he has talked to, Mr. Pryor has talked to, is a prominent attorney in the Boise, Idaho area. So, that's it for Chad. Now, moving on to Lori Daybell. Lori Daybell. Lori Daybell has a restorative court hearing coming up on August 30th. And this is important. From the moment that Lori left the county jail and went to the state mental hospital, from that moment on, the court has been receiving what they call periodically updates on her actual restorative care. They're minor. They could be as simple as two paragraphs, if that, on how her actual treatment is going. Is she, acting out? Has there been any, write-ups? Is she actually restored? Are they making progress with her? But on August 30th, ladies and gentlemen, the court, keep in mind, the court is going to find out at that time, is the restorative care working? Is Lori done with her restorative care? Or do they see another continuance of another 90, 120 days needed to restore Lori back to a point where she can aid in her own defense? She can still be insane in the membrane, but I use it as a joke, ladies and gentlemen, but she could still be somewhat wacky and not completely there. But can she legally aid in her defense? That's the important part. You cannot prosecute someone who is mentally unable to aid and understand the actual charges and what they have been they're facing and the consequences of those actual actions. So she has to have restorative care. We may not like it. We might think it's all just a bunch of lies that she's made up, and probably so. But she will have that meeting, and the court will find out on August 30th where her restorative care is. Now, will we find out on August 30th? Maybe not. Because of the manner of what is going on with Lori Vallow and all the bizarre things that Mr. Means has done, I'm pretty sure Mr. Means will put in for a for them not to release any information about her actual restorative care. And on top of that, anything that they may have learned from her or anything at all. All right. And he's going to want to throw out HIPAA. He's going to say, well, because of HIPAA, you can't tell anybody, because he is a bizarre individual. Would he be right? Technically, underneath HIPAA, they can't release medical records, but it wouldn't be a medical record if she's restored. But he could do that. He could throw that wrench in there, and then we may not find out where her restorative care is from the state mental hospital at that time. So we may find out, we may not find out. But on top of that, we should also get another idea at that point if Mr. Means is going to remain on as lead counsel, or if Jim Archibald is going to be lead counsel. I mean, Mr. Means could stay on until, as lead counsel all the way up until the actual trial starts, and then they could change it. But we'll find out if he's going to be the lead attorney then. Okay? But that's pretty much it on Lori and Chad. But they have two court dates coming up, August 30th and October 5th. So, bye. Stay safe out there.